This is a project I've been looking forward to start for a while. It's focusing on the Ford Model A distributor, and not a complete rebuild of a distributor, but this video is focused on replacing the shaft without using a press. So for the most part, and this is a modern top plate on the Ford Model A distributor, for the most part you can take everything apart with the insides with a flathead screwdriver. Luckily, Ford Model A's, all the screws are flathead. You don't have to worry about a Phillips head. And in the case of distributors that don't need a full rebuild, so for example, like this oil filler cap here, this looks like it's in good condition. Top plate looks okay. I bought some new points just to, they're cheap, so I got them there. I think the condenser might be okay. The hinges, so I don't, and you can see the previous, I bought this used, the previous person who painted it, did a pretty good job. Maybe I'll touch it up, but I don't need a complete rebuild, but definitely the shaft, if you can turn, so the good news is there's a few things you want to check on shaft play. There's the vertical play, up and down, so that's good. Like, whoever put this together did a good job getting out the gap, but it wore out. I don't know why it wore out. Who knows? But if you turn it, can you hear that? It's definitely worn. So it needs a new shaft. So I'm going to show you how to press out the bushings. These are bushings inside the distributor. You want 1 inch size bushing. I measured these. These are 1 inch. And you can do this without a shaft. So I'm sorry, you can do this without a press. I got you can buy a lot of these parts at your Ford Model A distributors. There's several stores online or mail order. So it's going to have a new shaft. It's going to have new bushings. I highly recommend a few things before getting going. Locate an explosion model or a detailed model of how the different parts of the distributor go together. This is courtesy of the Model A Ford Club of America, MAFCA. There's a website there, and you can get like a list of all the individual parts. And you can see what you need, what you don't need. I think everybody highly recommends getting the shaft where you can oil it from the top. The way you can spot that is these have 2 oil, not just one down here in the bottom. Where is it? One there. But there's also one here. And the screw that you'll see a hole drilled that lets the oil go in. That's just a good thing, not necessary, but you have that. What are some other parts to do this project? So I'm going to look at a few. I've been given advice. I've been reading a lot about distributors. So there's a few ways I've been told to get the old bushings out if you don't have a press. One is I've got a pipe tap here. One way I told is do a 1/4 inch pipe tap, put this into the bushings, which are softer than the distributor housing, and tap it out with a punch. So I might do that for one of the bushings. There's 2 in every Ford Model A distributor. I've also been told you can do a chisel. So if you just kind of carefully chisel the bushing part out, and you can then remove it with a set of needle nose pliers. I may try that. I've also read about this hacksaw way. So the idea is if you have a small hacksaw blade, you can very carefully inside, once you get everything apart, to get the bushings out, just cut a line in the bushings and then either pull them out or use a screwdriver. So there's different ways. I'm going to try to maybe show a few different ways, see which is the easiest. What else do I want to point out before I get going? So the good news is, like most of these parts, like, screwdriver, even like these like you can get these pretty cheap if you buy them individually. I bought a kit online just to have them. What else? You can buy a lot of reproduction parts that are cheap. The one part, well, you need to have a distributor, so you'll need this to start with. But the one part that's going to be expensive I didn't get around is a reamer. I've talked to several people that say, get an exact, this is like I think a 1/2 inch reamer. It's a hand reamer. I'll talk about that later. You can read more about reamers online. But that was an expensive piece of equipment that kind of most everybody seemed to say you need to have that if you're going to do this. As far as pressing in the new bushings, I'm going to freeze these to kind of shrink them down a little bit. It'll just make a little difference, not much. But freezing the metal will contract it a little bit to make it easier when they're pushed in. And I've also read about you can use long bolts with washers on the end to press in the bushings as well. So I'm going to try that, perhaps. And you can also use a C-clamp. I got a C-clamp, so maybe we'll try different ways on that. So the point about this, I'll call this Model A Distributor semi-restoration is I'm just focused on the shaft part here. I'm not, well, I mean, I'm going to replace maybe some parts up here, but you don't need a press to get it out and in, or a special bearing kit. So that's what I've been told. I'm going to see if that's true or not. And let's get going. One more part I forgot to mention. I guess I assume it's obvious, but you're going to need a vise. So, if you don't have one, this is a worthwhile investment. You can do many things in your garage with it. But for those of you who already have a vise, don't have to worry about that. But you're going to pretty much need a vise to work on rebuilding a Ford Model A Distributor. To get these plates apart, get a big size flathead screwdriver. You're going to take this center nut out first. Sorry, screw. And once you have this out, take off the cam, distributor cam. I don't know. I got precision tools, machinist tools I can measure. I mean, I think you need to assume if it's been used, this is not good anymore, meaning it's worn down. I may measure it, just take a look at it if I could reuse it. But I think you got to assume for the most part, well, well, we'll see. Once you have that off, it's going to be, so if I loosen this up now. Once you get that out, it's going to be a lot easier to take apart. Like this pops out with a spring, right? So the top plate, there's that wire, the pigtail that goes to the bottom plate. This is the spring. And I need to just, again, it's all just unscrewing things with a screwdriver. So I need to like take these screws, unscrew them, and get everything out. So that's pretty easy. I'm not going to videotape that part. Okay, pretty easy to get the top and bottom plate out. So looking inside there, a little bit of rust, not too bad. I can clean it up with wire brush or sandpaper. So I'll do a little cleanup, but really not too bad. So to get this, so the next step is to get this, here's the shaft, and to show you what it looks like with the new part. It's going to go in just like that. This sleeve down the bottom, this is keeping it in place. So you're not going to be able to remove the old shaft until you can get this sleeve off. If you look very close, there's a little pin that's pushed in there. And what you do is you're going to use a punch, or something called a drift. But I've got a set of tools I forgot to put out, so I got a set of punch tools. But I'm looking at mine, and I don't know if I have the right size. I've got one that's too small. This one, I don't know, is too large or not. I got to try it out. Then I got another like old punch here, and this may, so I'm going to try to see what I got in my tool set to match up. I may have to go buy a special punch for this if it's the right diameter. But when I find the right size, I'll be sure to note it in the video so other people watching will know. So that's next, is to get this sleeve off. All right, so luckily I had the right size punch. For everybody watching the video, it is a 1/8 inch pin pinion, whatever that is. So can you see the 1/8? My camera is not good at close. It's kind of like my eyes in real life. But anyway, it says 1/8 inch, and it just, I'm going to tilt the camera over here. So if you look, crap. Hold on a second, folks. Amateur video here. I have the distributor in the vise, as you can see. So, and I got a cloth around here to keep it protected. I think I might reuse this sleeve. It might be good. So I just started. If you look, it goes perfectly in there. It's just the right fit. So luckily, that's just the right size I needed. Let me see if I can zoom in there more. I started it. So if you look in there, You don't see the pin now because it's below the surface. So I just put it in there, and then what I'm doing now, I'm going to back out a second. This is why my videos take so long. And I'm just lightly tapping with a small hammer, just lightly tapping. So actually, if you guys want to hear, let's go along real quick the rest of the way. All right, I think ooh, okay, that feels like it went all the way through. That was so I got lucky on a few things. One is whoever put this together didn't peen it. They didn't flatten out the metal, so I don't have to like file it down. So I got lucky in that respect. So now if I take this out of the vise slowly, there's a little pin that came through. It probably got caught in my rag. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to take this out. And here is the little pin. I could actually, I might be able to reuse this. I don't know if I will or not, but that's the little pin that holds the sleeve in place. I got extra. These are very cheap, by the way. You're probably safer getting a new one, but I could probably reuse that one if I was in a pinch. So now let's go back to our distributor over here. So now this should just come off. Look at that. Comes off nice. And there's some oil there, so it was like getting, you know, it wasn't like the shaft was not being oiled. So, and then now the shaft should just slide out. So like with my hand here, you can see I'm just pulling this out. It's still rough. Yeah, it needs new bearings. Sorry, new bushings. So you just slide this out with your hand. I'm worried something else. There might be little fiber. I want to make sure nothing falls out of here, so let me do it over here. All right. So what I read about the shaft as you put a new one in, and I don't know if this is good or not, but I'm going to get a new one. So a few things I definitely read. If you're putting in new bushings and you're trying to get this to fit, this is machined very precise and it's balanced. You don't want to sand this by hand or like you don't want to do anything on the shaft like a belt sander to make this fit into the distributor. That's a big no-no. So like this, you keep it the way it is. It's precisely ground, whatever, shaped so that it will spin centered. And I got precision machine tools. I can measure if it's like, you know, within tolerance or not. But I mean, I don't know, it looks all right. So now the next step is going to be, let me see if there's anything else in here. No, usually, okay, usually there's, and then there's no, that's interesting. There was no, sometimes I read there could be, according to this diagram, there could be like a fiber washer in there or something, or a small tiny washer to take out the slack. I don't see anything there. So anyway, these are the bushings you can see in there, right? So if you look, this is what a new pair of bushings are. I think they're brass. They're softer metal than the cast body. So if you look in there, you can't really see much, but there's two. There's like one bushing there, and it's pressed in even here, and there's another bushing in the top. Now that one, I'm trying, hold on, like, oh, there's my, look at that, it was there. So see that tiny little washer on the top? That's to help you take out, so that's good. So whoever put this together before at least knew to do that. So again, these are cheap. I might reuse it if it's still good, but if you have to buy a new one, these are like, you know, few dollar, like, I don't know, $2, I don't know what, they're cheap. So now I'm just looking here, clean off some of the oil there. And you can see the second, now that I cleaned it up, you can see the shiny part there. There's the second bushing in the top. I can't really visually inspect to see what. The other thing I also read is these can crack, so you want to check the body of your bushing. Sometimes when people are being too rough with these, you can crack the body. So when you take the bushings out, you want to look, visually inspect, make sure your housing, your distributor body is not cracked. That's another thing I read to check. So I'm going to try a few ways to get these out. That's my next thing. So let me switch over and set up for that. Okay, I got the distributor back in the vise again, so it's tightened on the bottom. Got a rag to protect the metal. So here's my dilemma. Of the ways I'm looking at to remove the bushings, they all have some risk, right? So here's the first one. I read you can use a 1/4 inch NPT, that's like a general pipe fitting, a tap, right? So the way a tap works is, this is very sharp, very hard metal. It cuts threads into new metal. Now, the trick is, well, I don't care about the old bushing, it's going to come out. I'm kind of just eyeballing it here, and I'm very concerned that I don't want any of these tap threads, these cut, I don't want this cutting into the body of the distributor, because then it's ruined at that point. So it does appear like the 1/4 inch is enough to grab the old bushing, and we could push it, tap it out with a hammer, but it's not big enough diameter. I think I'm going to be very careful as I put this in. So that's one risk if I go this route. The other suggestion is using a hacksaw blade. So it fits, this is a normal, I don't know, it looks like 12, anyway, it's a normal hacksaw. The idea is you can take the tooth side and you can just slowly go back and forth and just cut out a little bit of the bushing, which is okay for the bushing. You just have to be careful you don't go too far into the housing, the cast metal housing of the distributor body. But then you got to get it out, right? So you have to even if you had like a little chisel or something, when you bang this, it's close quarters. So there's potential. I don't want to damage the top of this or anything. So that's a risk for that item. And the other way I was looking to get this out was what I was going to do. Why am I going blank? There was the tap, there was the hacksaw blade, and the third way. Oh, folks, I'm getting old. I can't believe I forgot the third way I was going to look to get this out. It was, the chisel, yeah. So I guess without the hacksaw blade, you could just do the chisel. Now, I'm looking at the old, while I got this out, I want to see if there's anything. No, I thought maybe I could use the shaft to put. No, that's not gonna, I can't push it out that way. So if I was a professional machinist, there's precise tools like bushing kits where you can it would be the exact, and you put it in a press and it just push right out, but I don't have that. So I think I'm gonna go with the tap here. So let me start this. The wrench, at least for mine, the wrench size that fits here, this is a 3/8. So I'm going to slowly, all right, I'm going to be very careful and just see if that catches. It's tapered, so what happens is as you go more in, so that actually helps me because it's tapered, I can control how much it grabs. So I'm going very slow. It's definitely grabbing the bushing. Okay, I think I'm going to stop right there. Okay, so I don't know, I could have gone more. I'm being very careful. So it's definitely grabbed the bushing, but I'm not putting it all the way through. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. Don't know if this will work, folks. We'll find out. What I want to do now is get a punch, like a bigger punch, and go directly through here and line up down there on the end, the tip of that tap, that 1/4 inch tap, and I'm just going to bang it through. So now I'm just going to actually just rest that. Actually, let me be, I want to be a little careful here, so I just don't want to damage any metal. Okay, that's on a cloth. I got cloth base there. And then you want a pretty good size. You want to punch that big, but not so big it won't fit. Now you can't see, I'm like looking directly. Oh, I can barely see there myself. So that one, let me go one size higher. Actually, I'll try this one. So this is, what size punch is this? This is a 5/16. That's not a very common size, I think. But this one could probably work too. This is a 1/4 inch punch. I want to go a little bigger. I want to go as big as I can. That's my biggest, well, at least with this kit. And then what I'm going to do is just lightly hammer the top here. And what I'm hoping to do is push by the teeth grabbing on that tap on the other side. I push the tap through and it just slides out. We'll see. Okay, never tried this, but I'm being very careful to line this up. Oh, that was fast. Okay, let's see what happened. I don't know, something fell out the other side, so. The tap is out. I don't know if the bushing came. I get a feeling the bushing did not come out, so let's. No. So the bushing didn't come out. So what I have to do maybe is put it in there deeper. And the good news is I don't see any damage. It's just I don't see any damage to the body of the housing. Let me try that again. So let me get set up. Okay, try 2 with this pipe tap to get the bushing out of the Ford Model A Distributor. So I went a little more aggressive. I'm very careful to watch. I'm watching very closely here that those teeth, and it's definitely more. I did more turns, and it's definitely digging more in there than before. So I don't know if I'm trying to get to the point where it grabs the bushing well enough to push out without damaging the body. So let's flip it over again. And now I'm just gonna put it here. All right, so that's mostly, sorry folks, just trying, all right. So that's pretty protected by the cloth here. Get my big punch again. What are 5/16? Yeah. You could probably go, actually, you could definitely get a bigger, there's enough room in here, you can get a bigger punch if you wanted to. All right, just tapping again. Okay, so the good news is it's not, it feels like maybe it's moving a little bit. Not good. So the tap came out again and there's no bushing on it, so my concern is it's still stuck in there. So let's flip it over. Oh, so I don't know if you can see that. It did it did push out the bushing a little bit. You can definitely see it raised. So it pulled, when I put this pipe tap in there, 1/4 inch pipe tap, it grabbed it enough to move it out a little bit. And you can see the threads in there. So the good news is, I don't know if you can see in there, it's actually starting new threads. I'm not going to put a screw in there, but so I might be safe using this. So I'm going to do this the rest of the way. I'm not going to video I'm going to try again, but I'm not going to keep videoing it because you guys get the method I'm using. So let me pick up again. Okay, just some progress, and also to answer a question you may have about why I'm taking it out of one end. So first of all, you can see I've tried a couple more times, and you can see the bushing is coming out. I feel good about using this tap so far because if you look on the outside, the thread, on the inside you can see the threads, right? So it's like rethreading this. But on the outside, you can see it's smooth. So the threads, it's not a wide enough diameter. If you use this 1/4 inch, it's not so big that it's pushing outside the bushing, which is good. Like if I saw lines coming through here, I'd be, okay, that's not good. It's going to damage the body. So this appears to be working. The other thing I want to point out is why I'm not pushing through this way as opposed to just pushing out this way. So if you hold it sideways, there's 2 bushings. There's one on this end and one on this. There's 2 separate ones. There's a little gap in there you can't see, but this is like where the oil when you fill it up with oil, it gives oil there to get on the shaft. I'm not pushing this through to the bottom because I don't want to bugger up. Like, I don't want to push this into that, and it's just easier to, I think it's safer to get it out this end. I think it is possible if you had the right equipment, you could just push it all the way through, but I'm not doing that. I'm basically taking, this end's going to come off this way, and this bushing is going to come off that way. I'm not going to push all the way through the distributor body. All right, I'm going to keep going on this. All right, we're almost successful here. I just want to stop before the final punch, so to speak. So you can see this 1/4 inch tap is going into the bushing. It's not going through the outside of the bushing, which is good. That was my main concern. And you can see it's grabbing pretty good here. So all I have to do is give it a few whacks left. So get my punch, line it there. All right, I think it just came through. And oh, it didn't crack. So, so close. So it's almost out of there. I might, anyway, I can turn this by hand to get it out. No, I can't get it out, but it's still the little bit, that last little part of the inch. So I'll get this out, folks. I'm almost there. Sorry, I thought we were at the very end. So I was able to get it, the very end. I wiped off the oil and I just put a rag and I was able to work it out by hand. So at the very end, I think if you had a set of needle nose pliers, when it's this far out, you can pull it out. So I pulled it out by hand. Again, you want to check, I just wanted to be sure that that tap, this 1/4 inch MPT tap it didn't go through. So this method looks like it's a good method to get out the bushings out of a Model A distributor. I'll try the other method. I think maybe the hacksaw method next to try that. That seems to be one I've read about a lot. Now you want to inspect, so inside I cleaned out, I took a rag and actually I used the punch I think to push down. Where did my punch go? Oh, way over here. I just put a rag down there and cleaned it out. And if you want to use a flashlight to just visually inspect in there. And then I also, unless you have really tiny, I can barely fit my pinky in there. I just kind of went around the edge. I don't feel any scratches or burrs. Now at the very top, you can see over the years, this body, I don't know, it's like a 90, how old is a Model A, right? It's probably like 90 plus years. You can see over the years, different people have, there's some slight damage here, and that could be from punches, chisels, I don't know what. The good news is I don't feel any burrs. So I'm hoping with the new bushings that go in, there won't be a problem starting them, but we'll see what happens. Now, the other end of the bushing, the bottom bushing down here, I'm going to use this. I'll get set up, but I'm going to use this hacksaw. So what I'm going to try to do is lightly cut it, and I don't know. We'll see. But this is another alternative method I'm going to try. Okay, I'm trying this other method on the bottom bushing using a hacksaw blade. And to be honest, I don't think I'm a big fan of doing it this way. The main concern I have is I have even less control, at least with the cord. I felt I had more control over the tap to control how much it goes in. I could back off. With this, because you have very limited, you're basically sawing inside of a hole. So I'm going very, lightly, but it's hard to line up. The visibility is not good, so it's not like I can see a line. And you have to do a little bit. Then you have to take it out and take a look with your light. And it just seems like this method, there's more of a risk to actually sawing through your bushing into the body, and I don't want to risk that. So I'm not saying this doesn't work. This could work if I was very careful and just, I eventually would cut a line and push this out with a chiseler. But I don't, I think I'm going to stop. I don't feel comfortable doing it with that method because I already know this works. But I am going to try one more method. Someone told me in my Model A club, you can just use a small chisel. Actually, this is bigger. I mean, or a screwdriver there. But, well, anyway, I'll try that. He said you can make a, I don't know, I'm going to play around with this. He said this was another way. This may be too big of a chisel, but this was another way. But again, I'm worried about the damage here because, you know, this is like metal on metal. If you like slip off this, I don't want to damage that. So let me see how far I get. I'm going to play around with this chisel, but I may just end up going with this pipe tap to get it out. Well, I think I tried a little bit with the chisel, different ways, and I think I'm not comfortable with this way either. So let me tell you some of the challenges I had. So when it's pressed in, it's pretty much almost flat against the surface here. So it's not like I can like get under a lip here and push it out. Like there's no way to get under that. I could try to go this way down the side, but again, like I'm in the same problem with the hacksaw blade where I can't see or control this well, right? So if I try to like push a groove or a line in there, I could go too far and damage that. And so I'm not saying you can't do this. You probably can get bushings out with a chisel. You probably can get bushings out with a hacksaw blade. But I think for the options I have and that last one that came out, I think I'm just going to go with this pipe thread, this tap, and just get it out this way because I know that's a safe way. This is the other bushing that came out. It didn't do any, so, and actually, I wonder if I could just, one way to kind of make sure, just to show you what I'm thinking is, with that bushing out, what is this like? Yeah, see it, do you see that? It just slides right in. I mean, it barely touches, it doesn't, so the risk of this pipe tap, like damaging, it's like almost zero. So I feel, I'm just going to go with this to take the bushings out. Sorry for folks that were maybe going to want me to see the other way to get the bushings out, but I just don't want to risk the distributor body. And by the way, this is just for those of you paying attention, this is not special, but this is a 31 style distributor body. Do you see how it's reinforced here on the top, the hinges? And I have a 31, so like this is a matching year. So there's not too many of these out here compared to the other styles. Do I have an old style? So just so you see the old style, it's like, most of them look like this. These, rabbit ears, like these hinges, they're like, see how it's open? But this one I found is closed. So I just want to be, and they made these late, like I think at 31 the last year. So I just don't want to risk damaging this. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next step. Yeah, that bottom one came right out. So I was a bit more aggressive this time using the tap. So when I drilled down, I really went as far, you know, not overdoing it, but as far as I could with a little more strength, a little more depth, and just punch it out from that side. And it came right out. So this goes a lot faster, and it appears to be safer, less of a mess. I don't have like a bunch of shrapnel everywhere, so shavings. So yeah, I think this is the best way. If you don't have a fancy press and you don't have special precise bushing tools and things to press these out, I think I would recommend this way. Again, the other methods can work, but for me, this just seems to be best with the minimal risk. And now we're on to the next step. This is optional, but if you want to clean up your distributor, which I'm doing, I've already started on a few things. So one, a wire wheel, is that 4-inch? I don't know, 5-inch. Anyway, this is really helpful just in general to have around your garage. I put this in the vise and you can see the bottom part of this housing is cleaned right up. And then down here you can also use a lot of sandpaper. So one trick I do is if you're on a flat surface, just put your sandpaper on a flat surface. This is a 100 grit. I'll probably finish up with like 300 or 400, but the 100 grit is good just to kind of start getting some of the stuff off, so you can see like that's cleaning up, and then I'll do a fine grit at the end. Now inside here, I don't have a, why am I going blank? I don't have a soda blaster, a medium blaster thing. So it's going to be very tricky. Combination of sandpaper. I don't know what I'll like. This is really, in fact, these are some deep crevices in there. But I've got ways to get the rust out. And again, it's light rust. It's not like this was sitting in a field for 30 years. So just clean up your distributor where you can. If it needs paint, there's actually, the body's in decent, you know, the paint's okay. But if you need to repaint it, just mask it off and paint it. Just clean it up before you put the new bushings and shaft in. I'm just cleaning up the distributor body a little bit before I assemble everything back together. So not bad. It's mostly sandpaper. I mean, there's lots of detailed cracks and crevices you can get with sandpaper. I don't have a bead blaster, so this is the next best thing. I also did a combination of, you know, this is a nylon bottle brush, and you know, you can basically put some solvent on there, clean the inside out. I was able to actually get a good view. I cleaned all the old oil, and I can see the inside of the hole here where the shaft goes, and you can't really see from this camera, but I'm able to see gouges there. Like there's one there. I don't know if that'll show up in the video. And then this is obviously from previous owners, and the other one, where do I see kind of a small one there. I don't know if you can see that one. But basically that's from people in the past, like I think taking a chisel like this and they weren't careful, and so I think it's usable, but you can definitely see past scars on it, which makes me even more convinced now that pipe tap, that NPT quarter-inch pipe is the safest and best way to go to get those bushings out there, because you'll never have that problem of scratching and scoring the inside here, which you don't want. Okay, we're now at the point where we're going to press new bushings into the Ford Model A Distributor. Before I do that, however, I want to review some things. So there are different ways. So again, remember, I don't have an arbor press. I don't have any kind of press. So we're doing this project without professional tools, or at least industrial tools, I guess. So I've been told a few ways you can do this by hand, that you don't need a lot of pressure, like in the thousands of pounds, to push a bushing into the distributor. One way is you can do a C-clamp. So the idea is you put on the bottom, line up the bushing on the top, and this is a 3-inch C-clamp. These are cheap. Get them at Harbor Freight or other places. Or I've been told you can also use a bolt with washers. So I wasn't sure exactly what size washers, so I got 2 different bolts at the local hardware store, big box store. One of these is a 3/8 washer, and the other one is a 9/16 washer and bolt. So I'm sorry, 3/8 and 5/16. So you know, if you do your math right on standard, 3/8 is going to be a little bit bigger than 5/16. So I tried them both, and the way the short answer is the smaller one, 5/16, works better. They could either one of these could work. So what you do is this method of putting the bolt in the washer is you look at the washer and you look, and remember the bushing is going to go in there. So you want to try to get a washer that fits just right. So 3/8 will work. There's a little bit of overlap, but if you do the 5/16, but don't lose these bolts. This is like an exact, like that 5/16 is like more precise. It's like exactly. So I could do either one. So I'm going to try to go with the 5/16 because the other reason is the bolt length. So I just wasn't sure exactly the length that would work. I got this bolt that's over 5 inches. It's 5 1/4, maybe a little over 5. And when I put this in to try, so you can test it, like this is with the big wad. This is the 3/8, right? 3/8 bolt, 3/8 washer. I'm gonna slide this in, and you can see I have. Now I could I could go buy a shorter bolt, or I could put a bunch of washers. But you can see this was too long, right? I don't. I need a shorter bolt to do this right. And the idea is that with the nuts, you screw down, and as you screw it down, this will as you screw it down, it'll slowly press. By wrenching the nut on the bolt, it's going to pull the bushing into the distributor body. But if we look at the smaller one, so again, put that washer here. And I got several of these washers. You probably want to get more than one. But if I put that in, lines up here. And now look at that, I got much more thread. So now I can I'll put a washer on that end, and then I can basically, and yeah, I guess it goes without saying, you need washers on both sides. If you try to like tighten this nut down, it's gonna, that would damage the distributor. So get washers on both sides, and this length bolt that is better is around 4 inches. This one is, yeah, 4 1/4. It's like it's a little over 4, like 4 1/4. So that's the size bolt you want for this project, not the 5. That's a little too big. The other thing I'm going to point out, okay, so of these two, I could do one-on-one, one of the, I think it looks like I'll have more precise control with the bolt, less chance for things messing up. With the C-clamp, I don't know, things could slide around. I don't know, I may try half. We'll see. I may combine, but right now it's looking like this bolt method with washers is the better way to put it, to press in the bushings. And the other thing I was told, besides putting these in the freezer to shrink them down a little bit, is you want to pick an end it's going to go in. And I read just slightly put an angle, either sand or maybe light, again, lightly is the operative word here. Like maybe with a fine file, like just slightly make a little bit of an angle, a slight angle, so when it pushes into the distributor, it'll just make it a little bit easier to go in with that angle to start it. Actually, I'm just doing, it may, well, on this bottom side, it may just go in like that. I mean, I can't put it in by hand, but, so I'll see it. Maybe do that, and then I guess for giggles and laughs, let's try the top. I may not, I don't know, that's, I've already, I mean, I guess it's a 90-plus-year-old, I mean, I kind of started it with my hand right there. That's not bad. So I may just, maybe sand, I mean, I may slightly give it an angle, but very light, very slight. Don't go crazy and make like a wet, like don't make a chisel out of it. So that might help it push in, and so we'll try that out. That will be our next step. So we're getting close to the end, folks. Thanks for sticking around so far. All right, now it's time to press in the bushing. So let me, real quick before I start that, as a side note here in cleaning up the distributor body, these threads where the armored ignition cable goes in, it screws in from your the cable here to the distributor as it sits on your Model A engine. If you have to clean up those threads, another pipe tap, not a 1/4 inch, but this is a 3/8 NPT. And this just happens to fit, so be careful because you don't want to mess up your threads. But if they're like a little bit rusty or need to be cleaned up, I sprayed some solvent in there and used a rag. And then again, you want probably some like oil or solvent. You just take the tap and just slowly, see how it spins in there? And just go back and forth. It's a tap, right? So just go and just clean those threads out, so that they'll be nice and clean. So that's a side. So if you don't have pipe taps, you know, get a 1/4 and a 1/4 and 3/8 in one kit if you can. All right, back to this. I'm going to use first this bolt method with washers. I got 2 washers on each end. I got my bushings out of the freezer. They're nice and cold. It's a hot day, so they feel good. I slightly angled, the word I was looking for earlier is a chamfered, or, you know, chamfered the edges, like I put an angle on them. You can tell the edges I slightly, again, lightly filed. See how those top versus bottom, you can see the difference in just a slight angle that I filed on the top. So what we're gonna do is, I'll start with the top bushing. So we get the bushing here. I dried everything off, you know, use it to, like, make sure there's no, like, just get everything clean and ready. So here's the angled end or the chamfered end. That's there. Try to get that. I'm just kind of trying to get it going by hand. Then here's the bolt. And that washer is right on there. Then what we do is, look at that, folks. So, I was not expecting this. So, the bolt with the additional length of the 1-inch bushing, look at that. I've got no way. So I'm gonna have to stop this part for a second and get, I have to go to the store and get a longer bolt. So basically, whatever this for, I need a little longer. So I might need 2 bolts. Like I need to start it with a longer than put the shorter one. But I can see right here, oh, but I got the C-clamp, right? So maybe we'll switch over. All right, so let's try the C-clamp. And you know what? I may have the same problem with the 3. So this is a 3-inch. And yep, I can already see the problem here. So this is opened up all the way. And you can see that's not going to fit either. I do have another C-clamp that's bigger, but it looks like a 3-inch C-clamp is not big enough to start a new bushing. So a minor setback, but not a big deal. We'll come back with the right tools.